And it's time for the results. Let's see how much silver we were able to get and compare that to how much silver we theoretically should have got. So hopefully you've already calculated your theoretical yield based on the amount of silver nitrate that we worked with. But we've gotten the silver out of that silver nitrate, and we should know now how much silver that should be in grams. That's your theoretical yield. We're going to get an actual yield here. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that with this filtration technique. And then we're going to compare that. We're going to compare the actual yield to the theoretical yield and see what our percent yield is going to be. So here's our results. So the thing's been sitting for a couple hours. I think it's pretty much done reacting. The solution's really dark blue, so obviously that's the copper nitrate solution that we had as a byproduct. That's another cool thing. I can save that stuff and use it for another experiment if I want. Most copper solutions have that really cool blue color. Copper nitrate's useful in electrolysis and plating, and there's cool things you can do with it, but that's not what we're after. We're after that silver that's at the bottom. So let me change camera angles here, and maybe you can see what's going on. There's a lot of silver at the bottom, so that was one thing that told me it's probably done. It's been sitting like this for like 15 minutes, and it's just barely growing anymore. I could probably shake what's on there off. I want to get every drop I can, shouldn't say drop. Solutions are drops. I want to get every granule of silver I can get, but so let me shake that off. If you look at this copper wire, it's way thinner. In fact, you can see the gauge of wire that I'm using to hold this copper wire compared to the gauge of copper wire that's in the beaker, and it's like considerably smaller. So it's gotten, but you know what? I honestly measured out the copper, and I don't want to tell you that because it's in your lab report and you should do that calculation yourself. I put enough grams of copper in there that most of this copper should have reacted, but it seems like there's still more than I wanted still there, and maybe if I left it there for like overnight, it'd slowly react and do it. But at the pace it is right now, it's really slow, and I don't think that I need to do that. So I'm pretty much done with that. And plus, you can dip a fresh piece of copper in here that looks like copper should traditionally look. You put it in here and you hold it and leave it, and you take it out. I've done this a few times already, and it's still like a copper color. So one of the first things that this does is actually turn black. You probably saw that. And then it kind of starts to turn to like a powdery silver, and then like nice crystal silver if you let it sit undisturbed. But this is not really reacting, so I think I'm pretty much going to get a pretty good percent yield if I just go ahead and take this out and filter it. And so let me show you how I'm going to do that. First of all, I'm going to take that out. Just set that aside. And I'm basically going to pour this into a coffee filter so it filters out the silver. And I'm going to keep the solution in the mason jar and use it for something else later if I want to, but I mostly want to filter that. And so let me change angles here again so you can see what I'm going to do. I'm basically, let me check that you can see this well. Probably not. Let me turn this light off. I don't think we need that anymore. Yeah, and let me move this. We don't need that anymore. Hopefully you can see pretty well the setup we have here. So in this mason jar I have some distilled water with a pipette, and that's what I'm going to use to wash the silver. I'm going to wash it when I'm done filtering it so it's nice and clean. I don't want any of the blue copper nitrate like stained onto my, yeah, that looks good. I could probably slide it over just a tad bit to give you guys a little bit better of an angle with like a white background. And I don't think I need my iPad, but I might use that as another camera in a second, so I'll leave it on. All right, so basically this thing is almost full, so I need to be real careful right here. Let me scoot this a little closer. So all my silver's at the bottom. So my first pour, I'm not really pouring any silver. Doesn't matter. I just got to pour this thing. The first part of the pour though, I'm not really messing with any silver, so it's just getting the top off. So just quick. All right, there we go. Now that it's flowing, I don't want to pour too much yet because I want to leave enough of the solution. Wow, it's really cool looking the way it glistens in the light. I want to leave enough of the solution that it can keep the silver particles suspended and moving around. So when I go to pour it, I don't have all the silver like stuck to the bottom. I'm going to have some, and I have a technique for getting rid of that. But what I want to do is really agitate these solid particles so they're moving around so that when I go to do my pour, the silver goes with it. And this is draining really, really slow. I'm going to set my microphone down so I can use both hands. Gas laws. So I had it sealed really well, and so there wasn't any way for the atmospheric pressure to push the liquid down, because as it was doing that, it was just building pressure inside the mason jar. Well, that's obviously not going to allow liquids to flow, so because of the pressure differential. And so in order to maintain that, I need a way for, as liquid goes in, for air to come out. So I got to have a little just crack the seal at the top there just so air could come out as liquid goes in. You probably all experience that when you've gone to a drink thing and try to fill up your drink, and you push the thing to fill it up, like potluck or whatever, and because that lid was screwed on, it doesn't flow very well, but when you unscrew the lid, it runs really well. So now it's filtering just fine. So again, I have just enough, a little bit, this technique here, you got just enough solution to kind of swirl it around and keep things moving, and then boom, watch this, I can, most of that came out, Oop, and there, the rest of it came out. Now whatever did not come out, I can kind of shake off like that, just barely let it run down, or I've got a pipette that I can use as like a jet stream. So I'm going to set my microphone down. Okay, so I am just going to now take my pipette, and it doesn't need a whole lot of washing, but I'm just going to keep sending some nice, pure, distilled water over the silver, and it's just washing it. I'm not washing any silver down into the beaker because that's what the coffee filter is there for. So I could technically hit this with pretty good pressure and just wash off any copper nitrate that might be staining the copper. Now what's really cool about this, if you do it the way I'm doing it, is you can keep giving it attention and you get a good experiment. Like I don't need to do too much washing. If we were to do this at school, you guys would have done the first part, gone home, and then the next day or the next week or in class or whatever, and the next day even, we could have finished it. But by that time, as it sat overnight, the silver would have taken on a lot more of the stain from the copper nitrate, and so it's not good to leave it in there for too long. But as it goes right now, my silver looks pretty good. So I'm going to let that dry now. Just going to let that air dry, and I'm going to come back when it's dry, completely dry. I don't want any false readings, so I'm not going to try to weigh that too early, because if I weigh that and that silver's wet, I'm weighing water, and water weighs pretty good, you know. Water is 18 grams a mole. Well, silver is 107, so if you look at the difference there, it's only going to be a fraction of water if it is wet. But still, I don't want any false readings, and so I want to, and what I can do to dry this better is to take this coffee filter out, set it on the table, expose the silver to the air better, so there's more surface area, more silver to air surface area, and then that'll dry it faster. Can even put out in the sun. It's a nice sunny day. I love the sunshine we're getting. In fact, stay tuned. This week is going to get hot. it's going to feel like summer. And I know your guys' motivation is going to want to go down, but hang in there. We're almost done with this school year. We still got a little bit more to go, so hang in there, but we're almost done. The summer is on the way with those warm temperatures, and you guys can get back on the beach and do your outside stuff. Okay, so isn't that a cool color too of that copper nitrate solution? So again, stay tuned. Once this is dry, we'll give you a good weighing.